5 minutes until the first players will emerge on court. So if you can hear my voice and you have a seat, now would be a great time to come on in and start getting seats so that the players have some people to cheer them on when they come in. And we're really happy you're here. Based on yesterday's matches, today's matches should be spectacular. Semifinals day at the 2024 Pittsburgh Open. We'll be doing player introductions in about 1 minute to go. Now it'll be a great time to come in and get your seats. Welcome to semifinal day at the 2024 Pittsburgh Open. I'm your host, Will Carlin, and I think we've got two great matches for you today. We have the number 1 versus the number 4 seed, and the number 2 versus the number 3 seed. So, couldn't be more ideal. Let me get our first pairing out here. Our first player is 24 years old. He's number 21 in the world, and our number 4 seed. Please welcome from Egypt, Youssef Ibrahim. His opponent is also from Egypt. He's 32 years old, the number 6 player in the world, and our number 1 seed. He has won this tournament 2 times. Please welcome back Karim, Abdel, Gawad. Yesterday, I mentioned that Youssef Ibrahim from Egypt started squash at Princeton, where he was both All-Ivy and All-America.
Welcome to semifinals day here at the Pittsburgh Open in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the Rivers Club. We've got a cracking lineup for you here today, and we're going to start things off with Egypt's Karim, Abdel, Gawad, and Youssef Ibrahim, and they'll be fine, and they will be followed on by another Egyptian encounter between Youssef Soliman and England's Marwan Elshorbagy.
Who he lost to twice in 80-minute 5-game matches. Muhammad said after one of those matches, he's one of the most talented players on tour. I'm a big fan of his game, and he's a nightmare to play. I mentioned his college connection partly because his road to the semifinals has so far only been against former college rivals, beating former Penn number 1.
Well, joining me in the commentary booth for this evening's semifinals, we have former England international Ben Coleman. Good afternoon, Ben.
Good afternoon, Chris. Well, good evening from me, I must say, over in the UK. Yeah, it's really nice to be here. As you said, I think I got every word of that. We've got a couple of great matches. Really looking forward to watching it, let alone commentate on them. So yeah, excited. What's ahead?
Well, there we have Karim Abdel Gawad. He's a former world number 1, currently slotting in at number 6 in the world. About a year out from coming back from that quite horrendous foot injury where he had that bone growth on his heel. Took him a very long time to figure it out, but he's all good now. He's firing on all cylinders, and he's been looking pretty sharp so far in this event, cutting his way through here to the semifinals quite comfortably with two 3-love victories. But he's taking on Youssef Ibrahim of Egypt, 21 in the world, been as high as 11 in the world, so 10 spots off his highest world ranking. He had a fairly comfortable match yesterday against Vincent Omar from India, getting through in 30 minutes 3-love, but he had a slightly heavier second round match against the American Andrew Douglas, coming through in just under an hour in 5 games. But both these players with those comfortable 3-love victories yesterday, as we mentioned, so this is setting up to be a real mouthwatering semi-final, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I think, interestingly as well, I believe their head-to-head is, they've only played once on the tour, and Youssef Ibrahim actually won that game back in 2001 in the Manchester Open. So, all things considered here, it's going to be a great game, right?
No, absolutely. It's actually quite astounding that these two players have only met once on the PSA World Tour, considering they've both been, well inside the top 10 and top 20 for quite a substantial amount of time. I guess Youssef Ibrahim was in college at Princeton in the U.S. for a while, so that somewhat limited his activity on the PSA World Tour for a bit. But even so, he's been around a long time, so quite unusual that they only have that one head-to-head.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that absolutely stood out for me. A kind of, two top Egyptian players. You expect at least there to be, a handful of games between these two, and I'm sure they've played a lot more over in Egypt, even with obviously Youssef Ibrahim being sort of based in America. But hopefully you can hear my excitement for this game. I think firstly it's great to see Gawad back. I know he had a short break just since December, didn't he? And after that long injury layoff that you mentioned, it was a worry in Hong Kong to see him injured again. But luckily it was short layoff. He's back and hopefully firing on all cylinders.
Well, I always think some of these events that are played on traditional plaster courts can be a little bit interesting because it's a bit of a different dynamic. There's a bit more variability in the court conditions compared to the glass court, and that can produce some slightly more eclectic results than we generally see at the World Series events.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I think that it was a point I was going to bring up. You've absolutely hit the nail on the head there. It's these traditional courts. A lot of people ask me these questions, what the difference is between playing on a glass court and these traditional courts. And truth is, there's a lot of differences, isn't there? I mean, the better player is always going to adapt to different situations, but it's very different to playing on a glass court. So as you said, sometimes that can bring some surprise results, and other times the best player adapts, as I said, and will find a way to win on any court, right?
No, absolutely. And I think, it's probably a good sign here for Karim Abdel Gawad just how quickly he's cut through the draw. In the second round, he took out George Parker in just 30 minutes, and it was only 31 minutes yesterday with Adrian Waller. The game scores were relatively tight yesterday, but still 30 minutes, basically an hour on court for 2 rounds is not a bad outing for Karim Abdel Gawad.
No, I think I'm sure you'll agree, Chris. I wouldn't have minded that once or twice in my career, to be honest with you. It's usually the other way around for both of us, grinding our way through. So that just shows the class of Gawad against some top quality players as well, English players at that. But hopefully for his sake he can continue here. And it looks like Youssef Ibrahim, as you said, from starting with a tough one against Andrew Douglas, he's just getting better and better in this event. So it can only be a good sign. Chris, I wanted to ask, did you, talking about traditional courts and glass courts from your experience on tour, is there anything in particular what do you prefer playing on? And, is there anything in particular you like or dislike about the other?
Well, I think with glass courts, we all generally enjoy playing on them, although they can be quite unforgiving because you know what you're going to get, and in general they can be in some pretty spectacular locations. The thing with these traditional courts is there can be a lot of variety in terms of the playing surface, especially here in the U.S., because we tend to use a variety of court manufacturers. So some can be quite lively while others can be quite dead. So it really is on a court-by-court basis what you prefer.
Correct. I think that just shows the adaptability of, a lot of people ask this question, and a squash court's a squash court, but it really is. Every one of these venues is different, and I think it just makes these players even more special in not just their skill, but being able to, as I've said a few times now, just adapt to different surfaces, different court types. It is they all play just slightly different, don't they?
No, massively, and a lot of times with these traditional courts, it can have a bit to do with just the venue situation, like is it quite cold inside, or is it quite hot, or how many people are watching. So a lot of things can factor in just into the playability of the court.
You've played this event, haven't you, Chris? Just like myself. I think there's quite a big space behind it, isn't there? But I remember the courts being quite lively. The walls are quite quick, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in there tonight as well, or this afternoon, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a good sign to see for squash here in the U.S., this Pittsburgh event. It's just grown steadily over the years. I think they started off at sort of a 10 or a 15K, and just over time they've grown it up to a World Tour silver now.
Absolutely, it's fantastic to see the backing, isn't it? One of many tournaments now in the US. It's just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, well, it's all happening this week here in the States. Concurrently with this Pittsburgh event, we have the Women's Detroit Athletic Club tournament taking on now, so there are plenty of options for the SquashTV fans out there. I believe the women's semifinals are on later this evening.
Absolutely, some great squash on at the moment. Spoiled for choice.
And next week we're following things up with Squash on Fire in Washington, D.C. That's a bronze event. And then we also have the gold event in Houston, Texas at the Houston Squash Club. So
keep
a lot of
coming.
options out there.
It's the US swing, isn't it, of the tour? Always tend to be the first few months of the year when you just kind of, players from Europe just touring across the US and a bit of Canada as well.
Yeah, the good thing to see this year is we're seeing a few larger events taking place in Canada as well, which is a nice addition to that swing.
Absolutely. Chris, I was just noticing, watching this game kind of unfold a bit here. It's very close. Youssef Ibrahim's actually given away 2 or 3 strokes, maybe one. It was a let that could have been a stroke, just clicking that side wall. And I think that's on any style of court, but got to get that ball running through and not clipping that side wall, because you're just going to either give away strokes or give your opponent the middle of the court and allow them to dominate. And against someone of Karim Abdel Gawad's level, you're not going to win that battle. So he has to find the back corners and has to get Gawad chasing.
No, absolutely. And there's so much subtlety in Karim Abdel Gawad's game. He doesn't seem to be doing much, but he's just creating so much pressure in his basic hitting, and it's just forcing Youssef Ibrahim into some areas of the court that are slightly more uncomfortable. And you can see, like you said, Ben, he's trying to do just a little bit too much with the ball.
Yeah, he's just, he's hard to read, Youssef Ibrahim, but I feel like his game style and gameplay as well for himself is sometimes so exciting to watch, but I'm not sure he knows sometimes what's happening. He plays a lot on instinct, as far as I believe, and it's incredible. He's so talented, he's so skillful, but sometimes against the top players, maybe he needs to just build on that solid side of his game, that solid base, because we've seen it. He's had some huge wins on the tour. He just needs that consistency, doesn't he?
Absolutely, and he's had a bit of a shocker there. The ball just sliding out into the middle of the court, and Ibrahim with plenty of room to play that.
I understand he was well clear this morning. 8-3.
Yeah, he wasn't close there, Gawad, was it? It's the right decision.
Yeah, it's an understandable one. I think he just wasn't really sure where Gawad was, but with sort of the trend in the refereeing these days, you just have to go and play those balls.
Yeah. Yeah, frustration there from Ibrahim, as you just see there. It probably wasn't a minute or two ago that I was talking about it being a tight game and 5-3 to Gawad, and just like that, shows the quality of these players. Karim, in particular at the moment, but suddenly 9-3 up and the game looks to be nearly over. So, for Ibrahim, I think it's important to just settle down a bit here, even if he loses the first game, and just kind of grab some kind of foothold in it, just so Karim knows that he's not going to have it all his way.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Youssef Ibrahim needs to find a way to extend these rallies, because Karim Abdel Gawad has raced out to a 10-3 lead and now has 7 game balls. It's just gone a little bit too quickly here. Karim Abdel Gawad not being asked the difficult questions, and Youssef Ibrahim just taking him into the front corners a little bit too quickly. And Gawad just taking his time and eventually picking off Ibrahim.
White box, 10-3, game ball.
Yeah, he's not, you know, unfortunately against a player like Karim as well, if you don't settle down, then he's just going to, you know, have you moving from pillar to post and tie you up. But Youssef Ibrahim's not settled at all here, is he? At first, I thought, you know, he got a few errors and a couple of nice winners, but he's not actually built a base at all here. And I think that's the main reason why Gawad's so comfortable.
4-10 game ball.
Absolutely. I think we could see a small resurgence here from Ibrahim, though, with being game ball down. I think he's going to let the arm go a little bit freer on the attacks, but it's still a long way to come back.
Yeah, you often see that, don't you? Just for the viewers, that kind of the term that you just use there, just freeing your arm up a little bit. It's unbelievable how suddenly being game ball down, your head switches to, I've probably lost this game anyway, so you kind of free your arm up a little bit and you suddenly find yourself winning 3, 4, 5 rallies in a row. It's suddenly feels easy, doesn't it?
6-10 game ball.
Yeah. Well, he's saved 3 game balls so far, Youssef Ibrahim.
On the flip side of the coin there as well, Chris, is that, and I'm sure Karim's probably doesn't quite do this as much as most of us, but you know, all of a sudden you might be playing really well, but that game ball feels so much harder to get, doesn't it?
6-10 game ball.
No, absolutely. And you almost feel like Karim Abdel Gawad's tried to go a little bit cheap here. He's not going through the process of building the rally like he was earlier in the game. He's almost expected Youssef Ibrahim to just let this go, and to some degree the opposite's happened. Youssef Ibrahim's just relaxed and been a bit more positive, but Gawad finds a response there, and he's taken that first game rather convincingly. So, pretty impressive start from Egypt's Karim Abdel Gawad there. He was just floating around the court, very relaxed, and he never really allowed Youssef Ibrahim into the game. It was only 11 minutes, 11-6. So Karim Abdel Gawad out in front.
Yeah, there was no kind of harm done there by Ibrahim. I do think that, you know, those last 3 points in the game, albeit it kind of got him a little bit of a foothold in the game, so I think it'll make him feel a little bit better. But for Karim, he ran out a comfortable winner, and I think he's going to need to take something special here from Ibrahim to actually switch it around in the second game and really make Karim feel like he's in danger on that court, because at the moment he looks in complete control to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're just... Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I was just saying, it's that mid-stage, as you can see, that patch when I said, you know, it was tight at 4-3 or 5-3, and then suddenly those, you know, 4 or 5 points just ran away so quickly, and at that mid-stage, you just can't afford that against a player of that level, because you won't get a chance to get back in the game, you know?
No, absolutely. And I think for me, what was so impressive about Karim Abdel Gawad there was just the level of control he was in. He wasn't particularly doing anything spectacular, but his basic quality was so good. He was able to just coast around and wait for a very loose ball from Ibrahim and just work it into the open space on court.
15 seconds.
Trying to think, Chris, of examples, but watching Karim here and, you know, watching him for many years and playing against him, I don't think you'll find many players who, you know, initially when we was talking about those different courts and maybe having to play in a different way because the movement of the ball, the speed, etc. Gawad just looks like he does the same thing every single court he plays, and that's a huge skill in itself. Like, we know how tough that is, so to be able to just plays the same game, and it's elegant, it's smooth, it's classy, it's everything I wanted, to be honest.
No, he reacts supremely well to just the subtle changes in the ball and the speed of the ball, more so than a lot of other players. You can see other players get a little flustered when things are happening really quick or having to try and slow things down, where Gawad just, like you said, seems to basically go with almost the same tactic and just speeds up his racket head or slows it down based on how quick the ball is traveling. Well, for me, Gawad was in such dominating form in that first game. The start of the second game is really, really important for Youssef Ibrahim. He needs somehow to find some form of momentum, because if he's not able to really sink his teeth in early here, it could be good night pretty quickly, Ben.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, you know, if the second game goes the way the first game went, or even in similar fashion, look, it's hard for anyone to make Karim feel like he's really uncomfortable on court and really under pressure, but he has to do something to get into Karim. And I think, as you said, the early part of this second game, it's absolutely vital that he does that and makes some kind of dent in Karim's, not just physicality, but his mental state as well, knowing that he's not just completely comfortable on there. On that note, Chris, what, you know, for the viewers out there, what do you think Ibrahim needs to do? You know, obviously, apart from what we just said, anything in particular in terms of tactically that he could do from you watching this that will actually upset Karim's movement and his rhythm?
Yeah, for me, I think he just needs to find a way to extend the rallies, and he needs to have a little bit more variety in the hitting. It's all sort of that medium pace, not particularly finding the targets in the back corners. I think with someone with the level of racket skill that Gawad has, you need to have a real mixture of hitting, so he's not able to settle into that rhythm.
Yeah, I agree. I think something just as simple as, which I think will help Youssef settle down, is if we're just watching here, how many times that ball's hit in the back wall from Youssef Ibrahim. It wasn't enough in that first game. It's either landing a bit short like that one, just allowing Karim to just take it sort of on the rise, or there he's just getting volley opportunities. He's just going to get, I mean, it's just not going to work like that. If you notice, just on from that point that I was just saying about hitting the back wall from Youssef Ibrahim, getting that length through, I don't think, unless I'm wrong, Chris, there's not been many winners from Karim, you know, from when he's behind Youssef Ibrahim. So if you can get him behind him a little bit more and force him to try and attack from behind, I think he'll start to get a bit more joy like that, and actually then be able to counter a little bit more. You can see the relief on Youssef Ibrahim's face there, just feeling the way he needs to start to actually construct these rallies and you know, winning points basically off Karim.
No, absolutely. It was a much more positive rally, and it looks as if the approach Youssef Ibrahim is taking is trying to inject pace into this match. He's trying to push up the course, trying to be more positive on the volley and take time away from Karim Abdel Gawad.
You're out of position, the ball is too distant. Hand out, 3-2.
Well, and that's one of the things that just makes Karim Abdel Gawad so dangerous, is that racket ability. It's just absolutely sliced that serve cross court into the neck. And it was at a moment when it looked like Youssef Ibrahim was starting to get things right and have a bit of a resurgence. And it's that racket ability that allows Karim Abdel Gawad to break the rhythms up so well.
Yeah, he's just class, isn't he? Class personified, Gawad. You know, where most players might start to get, it's fantastic, isn't it? The racket skill there to just turn that racket head over at the last second, and I'm wrong for Youssef Ibrahim. He just, as you said, from a patch there where it looked like Ibrahim got on top of him. I mean, it's changed in a heartbeat just from pure skill from Gawad, and he's now 4-2 up in the second.
4-2.
Chris, when we talk about, every squash player is different and the way they do things, they have different qualities about them. For me, it's hard to think of another squash player out there that's smoother than Gawad, that, if I can put it this way, is more of just a natural squash player than Gawad. He makes everything look easy. You and I know how difficult that is. I'm just kind of trying to relay that to the people watching. It's really not that easy. He's playing a world-class talent here, and he's just, at the moment, making it look quite easy.
No, absolutely. It's a good point, Ben, because Gawad is putting on an absolute masterclass here. Youssef Ibrahim, currently 21 in the world, and just Gawad having responses for absolutely everything that Ibrahim's throwing at him.
Ibrahim. Not fully clear of the
even that, Chris. I just feel like that was a stroke. Completely was a stroke, but it's a sort of shot there that he could have played if he wanted. And I feel like when he's confident and he's winning and he's feeling good about his game, he probably just hits that ball in short and finds a winner there, as opposed to kind of waiting for that stroke. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely, and I think that's just a demonstration of how much uncertainty Karim Abdel Gawad has put in the head of Youssef Ibrahim. Just Ibrahim not wanting to risk having to play the ball and playing sort of a weak shot, or just preferring to wait for the stroke. It's a good squeeze there from Gawad. He was under pressure there to some degree from Ibrahim, and he just played that classy ball in short and completely squeezed Ibrahim along the side wall.
Yeah, as we've seen so much from Gawad, I mean, is there a better backhand on the World Tour right now, Chris, in your opinion?
No, probably not. I mean, in terms of just pure hitting of the ball, smoothness and everything, Gawad is probably the best example out there.
I agree for what that's worth. I think it's sometimes it's hard to explain, especially to people watching who, maybe aren't, they might just be kind of social squash players. It's hard to actually understand that, but the timing of his backhand and the smoothness of it, the holds, the adaptability that he brings within his backhand swing to make you, as an opponent, uneasy and not sure where the ball's going is, it's on another level to most, I think.
Yeah, for me, it's just how many options he has, even from slightly uncomfortable positions. He still always has 3 or 4 shots at his disposal. So he's putting up a bit more resistance here in this game, Youssef Ibrahim. But it was just, like you said, Ben, that little period in the middle of the game that allowed Karim Abdel Gawad to get this big cushion, and it's quite a big ask here for Ibrahim to get back in this.
Yeah, completely. I think he needs to, as we've obviously already mentioned, but I think it is a little bit premature for me to say this, but it feels like now or never for him.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. These next couple points are absolutely critical if Ibrahim is going to remain relevant in this event.
Yes, sir. 5.
Just a simple let ball there. Wasn't sure if he could swing.
Yeah, and I think it's a good let from Karim Abdel Gawad because it just allows him to slow the pace of this game down a little bit. Just potentially get Ibrahim off the roll of points he was on.
Absolutely, yeah. Just regather himself and hopefully just kind of... Well, it's an error there from Gawad, one that you wouldn't expect. That's credit to Ibrahim. Just, as you said, that run of points now, just putting a little bit of pressure, like we said at the beginning of the second game. It has to happen in this second game, and it looks like now might be the time. So really interesting couple of points coming up here now. It's a a fantastic shot there by Youssef Ibrahim. Looks like he's turned up, Chris. He's finally warmed up. That arm has loosened off a little bit. You know, we know the class and the skill that he does possess. So, yeah, maybe we're just about to start seeing that semi-final that we probably expected.
Absolutely. It's been a good little spell here from Ibrahim. He's just started to play a little bit quicker, and it's forced Gawad into some slightly sloppy play. He's not quite finding the running line along the side wall that he's been finding for much of the match, Karim Abdel Gawad.
No, I feel like it's kind of what's been serving him so well so far this game, because I think Youssef Ibrahim hasn't been able to find his best squash, but he almost now looks a little bit too casual, Gawad, where you just want to see him kind of assert his authority, but he's gone a bit too casual. Youssef Ibrahim stepped up and found his squash, and he's now just, as you can see here, Gawad getting a little bit frustrated, and maybe the tide's about to turn a little bit here.
Yeah, well, he's had a shocker there, Gawad. He's tried to go for the cheap stroke, and he had the entire court to hit into. He had Ibrahim sort of blocked behind him in that side wall. All it would have taken was a soft kill to put tremendous pressure.
Yeah, it's tough to see from here, isn't it? But I completely agree with you. He's claiming that there was contact on his, on his elbow, on his backswing. So it's hard to see without the replays, isn't it? But I think that's probably a fair call.
7-8.
Possibly one he would have been reviewing if they had that technology on as we do on an all-glass court these days.
Well, it's been an absolute shocker here for Gawad. He's gone from 8-5 up to 8-all in one hand. And for me, it's just how quickly Ibrahim closed that gap.
Starting to find his range here, Youssef Ibrahim. He just, you can see that bounce up on the tee. He's just starting to feel a bit more comfortable on here. What we said he needed to find. Looks like he's found it now. So rally's starting to just pick up in intensity level. You can see Karim there just having to really stretch out for those movements, something we haven't seen yet. So yeah, Youssef Ibrahim has now turned up and shown his best squash. Brilliant shot. Just lured him in a little bit there, Chris. Showed him short, maybe for a trick or a counter drop, and forced Gawad to get up and try and cover that short ball. And he was able to, as he unbelievably does, flick it with a flick of the wrist, just flick that ball straight and deep, and Gawad was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, well, from a physical standpoint, Ibrahim's looking pretty sharp, and Gawad is starting to look just slightly coming off the boil. Seems to be looking for ways to just take a bit more time in between rallies to get his breath back. And you can see in the rallies that Ibrahim's really pushing the pace, really pushing up the court, trying to take the ball early.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I would say, and this is, it's going to get tested now, is that he's not had a test yet, has he, Gawad, in this event? And previous to that, he's not actually played a tournament since December, where he unfortunately got injured. So, we don't really know where that kind of physical level is sitting right now. And as we can see here, Youssef Ibrahim is really testing that, and Gawad's definitely on the ropes.
Well, it's been a tremendous response from Youssef Ibrahim. He's reeled off 5 straight points, and he now has 2 game balls.
It's been fantastic. I actually think, you will correct me if I'm wrong in a little while, but I have a feeling that Gawad was actually 8-4 up. Which is just an extra point for Ibrahim, but we will find out after this game. Let's see at the moment whether he can actually take it. But it's been unbelievable effort there. How good's that, Chris?
Well, a fantastic response there from Youssef Ibrahim. He was looking in a really dire situation, but really answered the bell well there, and he's leveled things out here at 1 game apiece. And he's made this semi-final very spicy now.
As we watch this unbelievable match between these two athletes, which is incredible to me, I just like you all to take a moment and look at all the names around the top of the
Well,
board.
there it is, just under half an hour. And Youssef Ibrahim has leveled things out at 1 game apiece here after a 16-minute second game.
And a lot of it is because of their love of this sport, this game, this club, and the people.
Well, Ben, there was a moment there where you called it. You basically said that Youssef Ibrahim didn't respond. He was going to be short for this Pittsburgh Open, and boy, did he respond.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I mean, there's responding, and then there's that. And I think when we talk about Youssef Ibrahim in the kind of landscape of the squash world at the moment, I think he just checking the points that come through there. Is I right in that? Yeah. Wow.
8-4. Yeah, there you go. You called it, Ben.
Look at that run of points. That's unbelievable. I think. I mean, it's unbelievable against anyone, but of a player of Gawad's quality, I think it really just shows the levels that the levels that Ibrahim needs to reach in order to beat Gawad today, but also shows the levels that he does have within his locker. I think the reason Ibrahim is 21 in the world at the moment and not probably a bit higher where I think he should be is it's just consistency for me. And I think there's no doubt that whoever he plays in the world, they know that he has the level that can actually compete with them, and I think he knows that as well. He's just fighting for that consistency. Have you played Youssef Ibrahim in your career, Chris?
No, I actually never played Youssef Ibrahim. I never overlapped.
Would you like to?
Well, I think based on what we're seeing today, I think it would be a pretty tall ask. I actually, funnily enough, I played Karim Abdel Gawad right at the start of his career. I think right when he one of his first tournaments actually in Japan.
Okay.
6K or something like that.
And?
If you can, I lost to him in the quarterfinals in 5, and then if you can believe it, he lost to James Snell of England in the final.
Wow.
So
I can believe it. I know I remember James Snell is a very good player, but I'm sure that's a result that he probably still tells people about today. Considering the heights that Gawad has reached.
Have you played either of these players?
Yes, I have. I've never played Ibrahim as well. I'm unsure whether I'd even want to. Just I like finding rhythm, and it would just be the opposite against him. But I've played Gawad. I've played Gawad before, and he was my age group, so I sort of grew up in juniors with him in some of the big events, and I mean, say grew up with him, kind of watching him in the finals, and strangely enough, he's just been the same player the whole time. Obviously, just got a bit better, a little bit stronger, a bit more consistent, but he's never changed his game. He's never changed his identity. He just does it so well. Probably my favourite player to watch, Chris. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, he's definitely up there with when Gawad's on song. He's definitely extremely entertaining, and it was a clever movement there from Gawad to make the court incredibly big for Ibrahim. So I think Gawad's recognized the mistake of letting that second game get away from him, and he's come out here in the start of this third refocused, and he's really hungry to try and create more pressure on Youssef Ibrahim.
Yeah, I think someone of Gawad's level, we definitely expected that response. He wasn't just going to sit back and allow Youssef Ibrahim to suddenly take control of this game, and that's exactly what we've seen. And from being, I think what would he have won after that run of points in the first game, and then went 1-love up in this game. Suddenly Gawad's 4-1 up in the third game, and everything's looking okay again. So yeah, you can't take your eyes off this for a moment, because it could change in completely the other way than what you were expecting with these two. A couple of poor errors there.
5-1.
I feel like that's always going to be his battle, Chris. Youssef Ibrahim, with as I said, he can and he has competed and he's beaten. I don't have the stat right now, but most of the players in the world at some point. But it's just the reason he's not ranked top 10 at the moment is injury issues as well, but like just consistency. And I think when he can find that, all of a sudden he becomes a completely different prospect in every tournament.
No, absolutely. And I think also to some degree, which by the way I think is a good thing, but the way the draws are made, especially on the World Series events where they only seed the top 8 players, you can sometimes get these scenarios where you'll get players outside the top 8 with a series of bad draws, and it can sort of set them back for a little while, not getting them to actually push up to where potentially their true ranking is.
It's very true.
Well, it's been a very good response here from Karim Abdel Gawad. He's really come out firing after losing that big string of points at the end of the second game.
Yeah, I think that just follows on from the point of nothing much seems to faze Gawad in his game. No matter what, he'll just, a little bit more focus, and he's confident that he'll sort of get back on the right track. Whereas a lot of players I know, when they, lose a run of points like that in the second game against Youssef Ibrahim, and think, I should be 2-love up, and instead on 1-1, might panic at that stage and not be able to sort of get their game back. But as we can see here from Gawad, it's he's made an error there, which he won't be happy with. But he has got his nose in front in this game and settled down again.
Yeah, I think one of the things, if I remember correctly, about this Rivers Club court in Pittsburgh, it tended to sort of favor big momentum swings. You'd see when players won several points in a row, then the momentum could switch completely. It was just one of those courts that seemed to favor momentum swings for some reason.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he did not have a clear line to the ball. The shot was slow. He would have reached 4-6.
But this is that mid-stage of the game that Gawad needs to be careful. He's been well in control for much of this third game, but Ibrahim coming back at him hard.
Yeah, I think we're now delicately poised in this match. Third, when you're 1-1 in a match, I think that might sound obvious, but that third game is so crucial just to gain a little bit of momentum. And I think, from what we just saw there, I think Youssef Ibrahim is probably a little bit fortunate there. It wasn't tight from Karim Abdel Gawad, but I think he had a bit of space to play that, so let ball.
Oh, and that's clever play from Gawad. He's completely stretched Ibrahim across the face of the front wall. Important point that, because it takes him back to a 3-point cushion. Ibrahim was coming back quite rapidly.
I definitely feel like it's important here for Gawad to keep a little bit of daylight between him and Youssef Ibrahim, and with shots like that, he's not going to struggle to. Fantastic straight forehand kill into the nick there was too good for Ibrahim, and to be honest, too good for anyone to get back, really.
Well, he keeps marching forward. Karim Abdel Gawad. It's been a much better third game, just more focused, balanced approach.
When you're out of position, the ball is forward.
Yeah, he's thinking there that Gawad has just kind of moved into his line, but there's so much space between Gawad and the ball that, as I think the ref's trying to explain there, he could have gone round there and played that ball, and so a no-let was given, and with that brings up game balls for Gawad to take a 2-1 lead. And I think, Chris, just going back there to your earlier point, wow, I mean, that went quickly from when we were speaking about that mid-stage of the game. I think that one point when you mentioned it was a difference between 5-6 and 7-4, and that was a massive turning point, and from there Gawad won those next few points really quickly, and as we can see there, took that third game in only 9 minutes. Something I didn't expect, if I'm honest with you, Chris.
Yeah, no, very impressive from Karim Abdel Gawad, getting back in the driver's seat here against Youssef Ibrahim. 40 minutes played, and he's back looking in control, Karim Abdel Gawad, after that hiccup in the second game. Well, I think the response we see from Youssef Ibrahim here at the start of the fourth will be quite interesting, because Gawad seems to have got his house in order. He seems to have refocused, and he's finding the targets in the back corners very consistently again.
Yeah, I completely agree. As you can see there, I think it was really interesting what you said, Chris, about the momentum swings on these courts, because it's exactly what we're seeing at the minute. Like, there's, they're quite big runs of points there for players of this level, and I think kind of unusual. You don't see it too much, do you? So there's obviously something about it, and I feel like Youssef Ibrahim there, disappointed with that third game, not just because he lost it, but at the end of that second game we were talking about the physical side of Gawad and maybe exposing that, and I just don't think he got into him at all physically in that third game. In fact, towards the end there, he started to go for cheap winners, which I just feel like it's completely the wrong style of game to play tonight against Gawad. And if he keeps doing that, I know he's got the ability to hit outright winners, but on a sort of a percentage level, I don't think he's going to hit enough to be able to beat Gawad. So it'd be interesting to see his tactics in this fourth.
No, definitely he needs to control the pace of the game a little bit more if he's going to really pressure Karim Abdel Gawad. Just random outright right winners, he'd need too many of them, and it's just too difficult to find the loose shots to hit those winners off of.
Gawad leads 2-1. Gawad to serve. Level.
I think in a lot of ways, letting that lead go in the second game potentially was the shock to the system that Karim Abdel Gawad needed to really activate himself mentally and get into this event.
Yes, just clear the front wall. Level.
Gawad obviously felt like Youssef Ibrahim was blocking a part of the front wall there, and he couldn't quite access the whole front wall, which is why he stopped there, but it looked like there was enough space, and that was correctly given. Someone just throw a peanut on the court there, I think.
Yeah.
Something that needed taken off the court anyway, has now been taken off. Hopefully we see no more of that. Poor error. I know we got a little bit sidetracked there, but that's a poor error that from Youssef Ibrahim. He cannot afford to do that in this game. I just don't feel like Gawad's going to give him the same back, if that makes sense, and he's just got a no-let there. So not the start that Ibrahim would have wanted. As we know, he can put a a string of points together. So see where this goes from here.
Your first step is forward. There's room for the
Started to get a little bit scrappy these last couple of rallies, Chris. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's one of those where Gawad here is trying to be a little bit too clever. Instead of looking for a solution to play the ball, he was looking for a solution to get a point on the board. I think it's also at that stage of the game where the ball tends to get a bit spongy and the ball tends to sit a little bit more around the middle of the court, so the traffic issues can start to become more prevalent.
Yeah, I think you're completely right, and that goes back to the what we were saying originally about the type of court, and that can change on each court that you play on. Some can become a little bit more spongy, and then it becomes harder to get the ball through. That's completely court dependent, isn't it? But it is something that we see quite often. You get that there? Yeah, well played there. Just, again, Chris, and the crowd absolutely loving that, and so they should. I think where he's got into him there, he's just physically pushing Gawad, and in the end he didn't even move that second counter drop. But he really needs to string a few of those together. He can't afford to just do that once and then maybe give a cheap error away, or allow Gawad to hit a quick winner and take his time between rallies, because that's where he just regains his composure and gets back on top. Just a bit loose there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think where Ibrahim's getting some form of success here is when he's trying to play quick and taking time away from Gawad. But like you said, it's the winner to error ratio he needs to be a little bit careful of. The errors have become just slightly more prevalent the last couple points.
Yes, sir. 3-2. Mr. Ibrahim, the interference there was fairly minimal. There was enough, but he was very soon.
I just feel like
3-2.
it's difficult to comment too much on this because we also don't have the replays and the different angles, but almost just looks like Ibrahim is maybe frustrated on some of the the other calls and the other decisions, that he's just trying to manipulate a decision to go in his favour, and that potentially close to a stroke there, but still think he probably could have and should have played that ball.
No, absolutely. I think it's one of those situations. It's a little bit tricky because in the past, sometimes referees would give players the benefit of the doubt in terms of giving strokes away for safety and things like that, where now they're really trying to encourage, if there's any way to make it happen, to play the ball. And I think sometimes players just aren't reading the room and just getting on with it and looking for the lines to play the ball. And if they're not able to, just playing the let. They're getting frustrated when they're not getting the stroke.
Gawad from the rights, 4-2.
Well, Gawad's done a very good job of basically weathering the onslaught of pace from Youssef Ibrahim, and he's out to another mini lead here, which is important for Gawad because it just gives him that tiny bit of breathing room to let his arm go and be a little bit more creative in his attacking.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I saw the pickup in the front left there.
I feel like it was a little bit naughty. I feel like there's some kind of friction on court now between these two players, and that last movement there by Gawad, just a little bit of a step back into him. I think, as I say, we're kind of talking on our reactions here because we can only see it once, but he wasn't happy with something. I think he wanted to make sure he won that rally, and therefore just stood his ground a little bit too much for me in that front right corner, and Ibrahim couldn't quite get through. But it's a let ball.
4-2.
Well, when he's gone for the cheap winners, Ibrahim hasn't had a lot of success today. And that could come back and haunt him because he's just allowing Gawad to march ever closer to that spot in the final.
Yeah, I don't remember any, can count on one hand the one-shot outright winners from Youssef Ibrahim, but he still goes for him, doesn't he? As I said, I think, he's got the most joy when he's really worked to rally. I mean, he shut me up fairly quickly there, as does the commentator's curse, but, apart from that, it just hasn't happened much.
No, I totally agree, Ben. Youssef Ibrahim has been at his most effective when he's been pushing up the court and taking the ball early. The cheap winners just haven't particularly seemed to work today against Karim Abdel Gawad.
So there, that physical side really stretching Gawad out and forcing him into those deep corners of the court is where he's getting the joy. And as you just see, those last two rallies were great examples of that.
Quickly, Mr. Gawad. I understand it's just a little bit slow, so I think it is. Hand out.
Well, I think this is very clever from Karim Abdel Gawad, taking his time, not allowing the speed of the game to get to him. He needs to be a little bit careful, though, because it's starting to come on the referee's radar, the amount of time he's taking, but I think until he gets a warning, he's just going to keep trying to take as much time as he possibly can.
Hand out, 6-all.
I completely agree, Chris. I think he knows exactly what he's doing, doesn't he? Just giving himself a little bit of time there to reset, disrupt the rhythm and disrupt the kind of momentum there that Youssef Ibrahim had. So, the ref rightly just telling him to hurry up a little bit there, and
7-6.
Youssef Ibrahim reacted well from that and is now taking a 7-6 lead. So back to that kind of just past it, but that midpoint in the game, mid-end point, Chris. And I think this is, of course, it's more important to Ibrahim than it is Gawad, because Ibrahim's out of the tournament if he loses this game, but he's really on the front foot here and looking to apply pressure to Gawad and take this game into 5.
No, absolutely. And for me, the thing that's just separated the two this game is the pace that Youssef Ibrahim is playing at. He's pushed up the court again, and he's being much more productive in his volleying. He's taking time away from Karim Abdel Gawad and really rushing him. And it's just not allowing Gawad the time to get settled on the ball to be able to attack as controlled as he was earlier in the match.
He's a better rally here. Both just trying to work it out, not going for any quick winners, and really work the opportunity.
Yeah, Mr. Ibrahim, he was too centered in court. He did not have a prospect.
Yeah, I must say, Ben, I'm a bit surprised on that one. I mean, with the amount they've been encouraging the players to go through and play the ball, to give a stroke there is a little bit astounding.
Yeah, I didn't quite react how Ibrahim reacted there, but it was a shock to me as well. I thought he might have given a let there, and just encouraging them not to play the ball a bit. I think sometimes if you make that decision, it feels a little bit harsh, that one.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a big decision because it's allowed Karim Abdel Gawad to pull level again. And on top of that, Youssef Ibrahim was looking pretty sharp. He had most of the momentum, and this has just completely neutralized whatever momentum Ibrahim had built up. So for me, Gawad needs to serve well here because I could see Ibrahim trying to fire this one in.
The winning shot.
Yeah, it's a good decision there from the referee. Just Gawad putting himself in a bad position there, and Ibrahim taking full advantage, making the court very long for Gawad.
8-7.
Yeah, as you just possibly heard there, conduct warning for Gawad for dissent. I think the referee just trying to get the players to get on with the game as much as possible and stop too many conversations and complaining about decisions, which is good, of course. We want to see the game flow.
Oh, and he's gone for it there, Youssef Ibrahim, and he's absolutely pumped it cross court into the neck. So Karim
Again,
Abdel
Chris,
Gawad.
I think that's fantastic. Sorry, I was just going to say again. I think that he hit an outright winner there, but after he set it up with that good, nice drop shot that made Gawad chip up on the ball, so he had a little bit of time to really showcase his skills rather than going for that kind of first opportunity winner, and it paid dividends there.
No, absolutely. Youssef Ibrahim has started to create quite a lot of pressure on Gawad.
The ball came up, there was no direct guesses.
Gawad going straight into the back of Youssef Ibrahim there, but getting the stroke, the ball apparently just sitting up a little bit. So really big point coming up here.
No, Mr. Ibrahim, let's continue. 8-9.
I feel like this is a really big shout, Chris, and very much might live to regret it, but whoever wins this next point, I think is going to win the match.
Yeah, that's definitely a big call there, Ben.
That's a big shout.
Certainly,
I heard it as I said it.
Certainly a brave call, that one. But I can see where you're going with that. You definitely feel like a lot of the momentum rests on this particular point.
10-8.
Wow. And Ibrahim wins it. There we go.
There you go. Gawad's had a complete shocker there, making an error. And you just see the body language of Gawad starting to become a little bit negative. You just get this sense that the pace of Youssef Ibrahim's Gawad is starting to feel.
Yeah, I feel like, as I said, spoken about him, he had just a little bit of time out, Gawad, and of course his class. He's always been class, so it's no surprise that he's got a couple of wins in this event already, but just not quite looking physically at the level that you and I and he probably would expect from himself when he's, firing on all cylinders. And, as you said, we're just starting to see that now, just a little bit of a slump, maybe trying to force things a little bit too much. A couple of errors creeping in. It's not something we usually see from him.
Well, I think Gawad feeling that potentially was a no-let. He thought the quality was high enough. So Ibrahim still with 2 game balls.
Mr. Gawad, a bit more effort to look for the ball, please. 10-8, game ball.
Certainly on a knife edge here, Ben.
Opportunity there for Ibrahim. I don't mind it though, he's extending the rally. He's not going for, just as I say that, he decided to not extend the rally.
Yeah, it was a complete shocker, that one, Ben. He's just completely planted that at the top of the 10. So
from a really good position as well. The sort of errors there, Chris, I just feel like, he might get away with this, but he can't afford to make those errors at times like this when, he'd put himself in a good position. I feel like Gawad had gone short a little bit and was going, and he's just done it again. He's doing it as I'm talking, so it's it feels even carbon copy.
No, he's had a complete head off here, Ibrahim. He put himself in a really good position, and Gawad was starting to look really uncomfortable. And now he's just completely let Gawad back in, and now we're into a tie break where anything can happen. And you can just see the body language of Gawad has picked up now that he's got himself into a level footing. He just looks more positive, a bit more upright in his position.
Suddenly smelt victory, hasn't he? smelt victory and smelt what he's having for dinner later, maybe. Which is usually pizza, actually.
Yeah, no, they'll definitely be spoiled for choice there in Pittsburgh with plenty of options on the takeout. Well, no, but he's in the States, so he's got Papa John's, Domino's, Pizza Hut. And this is a little bit interesting. Gawad just going down here.
Looked like a heavy fall there. Hope he's okay.
Yeah, it was one of those. Was there a bit of contact going through with Ibrahim?
Yeah, without being, obviously don't want it to be too bad, but almost hope there was a bit of contact. So it might have been just a sort of a contact bruising type injury as opposed to anything happening to his ankle or, anything of his movement. So yeah, hopefully he's up quite early there. Hopefully that's a good sign.
Yeah, my impression seeing it in real time was it was just a bit of traffic going through. It wasn't particularly malicious, but he just got hit at an awkward position and went down.
Decisions, yes, sir.
Yeah, he seems okay, which is good news. Yeah, just while we're doing this, Chris, I as I said, sort of played many tournaments with Gawad as well, and I remember going to a 30k event in Andorra years ago, and he was the #1 seed, and in the end ended up kind of winning the tournament with ease, and it was great to watch. But I just saw him in the club every evening after he played. He would sit on his own and he'd eat a pizza with the coach, and it was, it just baffled me, there's me kind of trying to be as healthy as possible and, really, really thinking about what I'm eating. And I think I probably lost in the first or second round there, and he goes and wins the tournament and had pizza every night. So maybe that was a secret.
Yeah, no, well, it was healthy because he had the Coca-Cola Light. He didn't have the full sugar one. So
no, yeah, that balanced it out for him, I think.
It certainly balanced it out with the calories burned on court. So he's not quite there yet. He still isn't quite ready to get the Uber Eats order in yet. He still has to get through these next couple points, Karim Abdel Gawad. But he's getting very close.
He's thinking about it, definitely. You can see, as you said, he perked up, hasn't he? So really wants to get off court here, and yeah, I don't think. Oh,
10-all.
It's hard to see how far that ball stayed up, but yeah, I thought Ibrahim was kind of. It looks like he wanted a stroke, but was quite fortunate to get a let there. But I'm sure there was sufficient contact, and a let's the right decision.
Yeah, well, I think these stoppages potentially benefit Karim Abdel Gawad. They just give him a couple extra minutes to gather himself, gather his physical side to be able to just withstand another big rally. I must say, I suspect both these players are looking forward to a bit of a jacuzzi and a steam after this hard encounter. The Rivers Club in Pittsburgh with quite a nice little recovery area in the locker room.
Yeah, I forgot about that, Chris. And on that, I think he's.
Mr. Gawad, please be mindful. Mr. Gawad, please be mindful of your movement off the ball. You have movement into your opponent's line. Let's continue, please.
So,
10-all.
let's just listen to what the referee said there. But he's been penalised there, hasn't he? Penalised as in given a let ball, because I think the shot quality was really high, but the ref deemed that Gawad had just stepped back into his opponent's line there, so he didn't have any access to the ball, and has therefore given a let ball. So it's 10-all, and I think that it's a tough decision, but it looked like a fair call to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about it, Ben. To be honest, I sort of felt like Youssef Ibrahim had put himself in a bad position there. Gawad obviously came into the line a bit, but with the quality of the shot, it's sometimes a little bit tough, though, on these traditional courts to be able to see how good the actual quality was, though.
Yeah, it's a good point. So it's hard to see without that, the joy of a replay, but the quality of the shot was very high. And just like that one, I thought, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of those where the referees sort of put himself in that position that he's just given Youssef Ibrahim a let for something similar, so he has to maintain the consistency.
Yeah, you just reminded me before that, Chris, about the Rivers Club and the facilities that it has, as you said, the hot tubs and the relaxing recovery areas there. So I'm sure whoever wins this, I mean, they're both going to be able to use them, but whoever wins this is going to be enjoying a jacuzzi and an Uber Eats tonight, I think. Maybe both at the same time, who knows?
Absolutely.
It's tightly poised, this. As you can tell, they're just being a little bit safe in this rally, not wanting to make an error, and rightly so, to be honest with you, because it really is do or die in this rally now, and neither one of them want to be the player to do something silly, and that's an unbelievable quite straight counter drop there from Youssef Ibrahim, and it gives them another game ball, Chris.
Yeah, it was a big squeeze there. It's a big squeeze. Ibrahim finding that perfect angle along the side wall.
Will it be this time, Chris?
I think Ibrahim is looking pretty good if he can manage to keep things out of the tin. And he's actually squeezed the error from Karim Abdel Gawad, so Youssef Ibrahim leveling things off at 2 games apiece here.
Unbelievable stuff there. A lot of drama at the end of the game as well. That game had a bit of everything, to be honest with you. I think it's really just... There we go, 24 minutes for that 4th game. I was just about to say that felt like a much longer game than the rest of them, and it's really caught fire now, and I think that just sets up a blockbuster 5th game between these two.
Yeah, no, we're really into the heart of things here. 66 minutes. So Youssef Ibrahim finding a way to claw his way back. There were moments in there when Karim Abdel Gawad looked like he was close to getting his final spot here in Pittsburgh wrapped up, but Ibrahim kept fighting all the way, and now anything can happen here in the 5th.
It's a really, really tough one to call this. I think the swings in momentum has just left. It's quite hard to gauge what's going to happen. I think, for me personally, there was moments in there, and as you said, it's not just, I know ultimately it's the player's responsibility, but sometimes these traditional courts can make games a little bit more scrappy. As you said about the balls getting a bit more spongy and sitting in the middle of the court, it's difficult for them to move around each other, and of course they're both eager to be in that final, so it's a real tense situation. But whoever can kind of stay away from that and play the cleaner squash and take the errors out of their game, I think they're going to come out on top in this game, and that is not withstanding. I of course said I now think Ibrahim's going to win this match from that 1 point, but yeah, it really is in the balance here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Ben. I think the momentum has swung quite substantially back into Ibrahim's favor. He's just been a little bit hot and cold tonight, Karim Abdel Gawad. There have been some moments where he's looked very, very sharp, and then there have been just these patches of strings of points where he's just got it completely wrong and allowed Youssef Ibrahim to get on top of him and create quite a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and you know what, we spoke about sometimes it's quite easy to just always expect the best and more from the player of Gawad's level, but he's had a little bit of time out. Maybe that is what we're seeing here. There's that little bit of rustiness coming out of him, the kind of inconsistencies, but he's going to be giving it everything tonight to book his space in the final. So 2 games all, 5th and final game. I'm excited about this.
Well, you get the feeling Ibrahim trying to really take the pace to Karim Abdel Gawad. bit
Poor
interesting
error,
there,
isn't it, that?
though. It's not a great error, but a little bit interesting just seeing Karim Abdel Gawad hunched over there.
Hopefully nothing more than a bit of a readjustment in his shoe, but as you said, yeah, it's always worrying when you see that.
Yes, sir. Need to give you more access, Mr. Gawad.
Chris, I feel like,
Hand out, one love.
I appreciate what the ref's saying here, but I've now heard a few times that, you need to give a bit more access to the ball. So with that, I almost feel like he's making the assumption that a certain player is actually not given any access, and therefore maybe a stroke should be awarded if that's the line that he's going down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's one of those where it's either you have to either go that the access hasn't been given, or that Youssef Ibrahim is sort of creating that interference. But
yeah,
to some degree, the referee's just sitting on the fence on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you just said there, he just almost starts to feel like it needs to be a no let or a stroke situation to avoid just constantly giving lets. But while we were talking about that, exactly what Ibrahim didn't want, and that kind of going for that kind of audacious cross-court nick when it probably wasn't on and hitting the tin. I don't think that's how he's going to win this game. Great kill there from Ibrahim. It's funny, isn't it? Because he has everything. I think sometimes he can almost... That's a quite simple yet effective shot that he does so well. Wow. Even better there, he just showed that, that's pretty good on my backhand, but watch this on my forehand. But, it doesn't always have to be that outrageous cross-court nick or a three-wall boast or a hold and flip. It's the simple squash just done well.
No, absolutely. And you just feel like Karim Ibrahim is the slightly more effective of the two players at the minute. To me, it's mostly down to just the speed of his movement and how early he's taking the ball.
Hit the tin there from Gawad, and we're really, momentum swings. Just saw a couple of bad errors from Ibrahim at the start of the game, and just seen one from Gawad there. Really interesting patch of the game now, I think, because just seen that slight slump by Gawad again. And is he gonna respond instantly, or is he gonna sort of drop his head and maybe find more errors?
Yes, sir. Yeah, he did not have a clear line. The ball went to the wall.
Feel like the wrong line's maybe been taken there, Chris. It's just what we were speaking about, isn't it? It's kind of gone down that let route, hasn't he? But it's a dangerous game to be playing, I think.
Yeah, you get the feeling no one's particularly happy with it. Both of them wanting a little bit more out of the situation. I feel like sometimes a lot of these decisions are sometimes cleaned up when you have the video review.
Yeah, that's true, and in the benefit of the referee here, they can't get every decision right. So that's what the video review has been such a fantastic addition to the game. But obviously we don't have access, and the ref and players don't have access to that here at the Rivers Club. So you do have to go on the original referee's decision. Simple squash again there, Chris. I mean, both of these players have got every shot you could imagine, and more probably. But yeah, sometimes it's the simple squash, but simple squash done well that is winning the guys the points and keeping them out of trouble.
Hand out.
Well, there hasn't been a tremendous amount of rhythm here in this fifth game. It's been pretty back and forth with a fair dosage of errors on both sides of the equation.
Fantastic winner there from Ibrahim. Just a backhand volley straight drop into the nick. But Gawad's just placed that ball on his racket. I think the quality's got to be higher from both players. And just as I say that, he's going for an outright winner off the serve and getting punished for not hitting it. And Ibrahim's really in the ascendancy here, I think, and taking control for the time being. I mean, it could change at any moment, but he's got a 2-point lead in this fifth and final game.
It's a good response there from Gawad, just making the court big for Ibrahim. He needed to respond well because Ibrahim was starting to run away to some degree with the fifth game.
Yeah, he's just halted that momentum, hasn't he? Which, as you just said there, is important. A player that plays at the speed of Ibrahim, you have to stop it, otherwise before you know it, it can just go away from you. And as we see there and talk about swings in this match, it's instantly back in Gawad's favour, and you know, an error from Ibrahim, and it's now 6-0 in the fifth. Chris, just notice here how little these guys are actually hitting the back wall and, you know, getting a little bit of control in the game. It's just lots around the middle and around the front, and you know, that is partly because of the court and the ball, as we said about getting spongy, but they have to find a way to get that ball through.
No, absolutely. It's gotten very bitty, and just the quality of shot into the back corners is to some degree dropped quite substantially. Obviously the attacking in the front corners has been fantastic, but it's that consistency in the back corners and in the cross court and the hitting into the side wall and things like that that open up the rest of the court for them.
It's better here from Ibrahim. Yeah, as you can see here, it's just then he gets the opportunity on the volley around the middle.
No. Your first step is away from the ball. Hand out, 7-8.
All come from that length there, didn't it? On the left-hand side of the court, which is Ibrahim's forehand, just put Gawad under pressure, forcing him into the corner, and then struggled to get that cross court, and then he had a volley opportunity on the right-hand side and won the rally. Go on, Chris.
Well, I think it's one of those where the ref just doesn't really want to make anything too controversial happen here. Gawad just standing on that ball, not really getting the ball into a great area on the court, but at the same time also Ibrahim looking for that somewhat easy stroke. That's a big miss from Ibrahim. Just allows Gawad to inch closer to this potential spot in the final.
Yeah, he just could see there on a technical point, just sometimes goes into that front left with a slightly closed racket face, Ibrahim, and such fine margins, and he's obviously really good at it, but it's the only reason the ball clipped there. Racket face just closed down a bit, and obviously the ball went low into the tin.
9-7.
just a really poor error. That really poor error, and you know, with that error, I think 2 in the last 3 points brings up 3 match balls, 2 match balls.
10-7 match ball.
Just changed for Gawad and a place in the final.
Yeah, you get the feeling here Gawad hasn't really done too much. It's more Youssef Ibrahim has just tinned out here in the business end of this 5th game. Gawad's just held his nerve a little bit better than Ibrahim.
Yeah, I completely agree. Again, it's just, you know, it comes down to that consistency, doesn't it? Big moments in matches, and that's what separates 2 quality players like this at the moment and gives Gawad these match balls by not necessarily doing anything special that we know he can do, just not making those errors and really forcing Ibrahim to play his best squash, which he did there.
Well, 1 match ball saved. It's a fantastic dying length from Youssef Ibrahim. Still with a little bit of work to do here.
The contact changed the direction of the ball. 11-8, match to Gawad, 3-2.
And just Ibrahim absolutely furious, giving the stroke away to Karim Abdel Gawad. So Gawad just fights off the resistance from fellow Egyptian Youssef Ibrahim, and he's booked his spot in the final here in Pittsburgh in a massive 81-minute semi-final. 11-6, 8-11, 11-4, 10-12, 11-8.
Yeah, great stuff there from Gawad. He just held his nerve, basically. Played the simple squash, but the effective squash, and almost made Ibrahim lose the match, if that makes sense. And I think that, you know, sometimes you can't ignore that, the simple squash, and especially when players are tired, just doing the simple things right, you know, is gonna get you through those situations.
You know, you're playing so well, but he's playing well. Does that in your mind at all, or you're just taking it completely fresh today?
No, it's that was expected. You know, Youssef, it's hard to find a bad hit for him. You know, it's a great move on court, great swing. Has different plans and different tactics, and he never go out of plans. You know, so playing with him, you have to have different plans. You have to be very strong mentally that day.
Well, we've just seen Karim Abdel Gawad take out Youssef Ibrahim in a massive 5-game semi-final. But stay with us, because next on court we have our second semi-final between Egypt's Youssef Soliman and England's Marwan Elshorbagy.
Well, there are a bunch of people here from Chatham, and I was talking to one of the players, and he wants to know, when it's 7-all in the 5th game, how do you stay calm? Because actually you were down 7-6, and all of a sudden you're up 10-7. How do you actually stay just in your head at that moment?
Good experience, of course, and you pass in this situation hundreds of times in your career. Sometimes you won, sometimes you lost, so you have to do it. And the only thing that I would advise is, you know, when you're losing, it's not in your hands. You know, you just try to play the best push, try to push mentally and physically and 100% in that game. And that's what I always do. Like, even 7-5, 7-4, 7-3 down, I just try to push into the last second of the match and just focus on the points.
Hopefully good things happen. One last question. You took a spill up at the front, and during the introductions I was talking about your past injury. Are you okay?
Yeah, it was just a little experience, you know, like load of traffic on court, and tried to go back. It was very continuing, so it was unfortunate, but yeah, just a little wasn't having anything with the injury.
You were in the finals again here in Pittsburgh. Your play is unbelievable. That was a great match to watch. Karim Abdel Gawad, everybody. And that match went a little bit longer 45 minutes, so we will be right back with the next match. Until player introductions, 2 minutes. Okay, that is semifinal number 1 in the books. Semifinal number 2 is coming up, and it's again another unbelievable match. We have our number 2 seed versus our number 3 seed. Let me get them out here. He's 27 years old. He's number 12 in the world. Our number 3 seed from Egypt. Please welcome Youssef Soliman. His opponent is 30 years old. He's the number 10 player in the world, our number 2 seed and last year's runner-up. Please welcome back, representing England, Marwan Elshorbagy.
Welcome back to semifinals day here at the Pittsburgh Open at the Rivers Club. We've got our second semifinal here between Egypt's Youssef Soliman and England's Marwan Elshorbagy. Well, we just saw an absolutely massive first semifinal with Karim Abdel Gawad booking his place in tomorrow's final against compatriot Youssef Ibrahim in 5 games in just over 80 minutes. And we potentially have another absolutely cracking encounter for you between Youssef Soliman and Marwan Elshorbagy. Elshorbagy coming through 5 brutal games yesterday with France's Sebastian Bonmalé saving match balls in both the third and the fourth game, while Soliman coming through much more comfortably in 3 games against Switzerland's Yannick Wilhelmy in just 36 minutes.
The second trip to the semifinals here, and this year it's our number 3 seed. Please give another hand for Youssef Soliman. Alexandria-born Marwan Elshorbagy is extraordinary in 5-game matches. Last night, his 5-game win against Sebastian Bonmalé.
Well, there we see Youssef Soliman. He's currently number 12 in the world, 1 spot off his highest world ranking of 11. 9 PSA World Tour titles from 15 finals. And a 61.2% win percentage from 263 career matches. And he's taking on England's Marwan Elshorbagy, currently rounding out the top 10 in the world. He's been as high as 3. 13 PSA Tour titles from 29 finals, and a similar win percentage, 64.5% from 484 matches. These two have met 6 times previously on the PSA World Tour, with Marwan Elshorbagy claiming 5 of those encounters. And actually, Marwan Elshorbagy has claimed the last 5 of those matches, dating all the way back to October of 2022. But I think the thing here that could be a little bit interesting is just to see how Marwan Elshorbagy backs up from that absolutely brutal quarterfinal match yesterday. Well, joining me yet again for the second semi-final here in Pittsburgh, former England international Ben Coleman. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening, Chris. Yeah, really excited about this one. We've already had one really tight, interesting, slightly scrappy at times, but showed the foray between the players in the last semi-finals. I think, as you mentioned, I can't wait to see how this one unfolds, because on one hand you've got Marwan, who is obviously the higher rank, but also a player who's dominated their head-to-head. However, with his incredibly tough match yesterday, and Youssef Soliman not only playing the best squash he's arguably played in his career, but coming through a couple of more straightforward encounters in this event, I can't help but think that it's a huge opportunity for Youssef Soliman. So yeah, really interested to see how this one plays out.
No, absolutely. Youssef Soliman will be looking at this one and thinking that Marwan Elshorbagy is potentially there for the taking today. He'll know he has his work cut out for him. He's going to have to go through all the processes, but it couldn't really have lined up any better for him.
Yeah, I think, as you say, it's on paper, it's a huge opportunity for him, but that obviously brings its own challenges as well, because Marwan can relax a little bit. Youssef Soliman might get a bit edgy, feeling like maybe the pressure's on him now. So, you know, someone with the experience of Marwan, I fully expect him to play well here. It's just whether Youssef Soliman can really push him physically and ask those questions that are needed to win a game like this.
No, absolutely. It's certainly one of those things sometimes you'd think a player is a little bit sluggish or tired, and it actually works against you because you just mentally overcook it. But I tell you one thing that's not overcooked, Ben, is you've got a fresh cup of tea there for this match, and you've got that absolutely right on point.
Absolutely, yeah. I wouldn't do it with anything else. You know, very English, but yeah, I have to have a fresh cup of tea ready for this match, because we could be in for a long one here, Chris. And you know, I certainly hope we are, and I'm sure the people watching do as well, because that just means it's going to be a bit more exciting and a proper battle.
Oh, absolutely. But what all the viewers on Squash TV want to know is, do you take the tea with sugar, or do you take it dark? It's not sweet.
I'd love to say I'm sweet enough, but I have, quite strange actually, I'd probably have a quarter a teaspoon of sugar in my tea. We could go into kind of whether that actually does anything, I'm not sure, but for me in my head it does. It just kind of, I know if I don't have a sugar, if that makes sense, but I don't need too much, so I'm trying to get to none.
Yeah, well, possibly that could be a little bit of hangover from the squash career, just getting the little bit of sugar in after you're done with the training, getting the energy levels back up to where they need to be.
Yeah, you are right. And I also have a sweet tooth, Chris, so maybe it's a mixture of both, but you drink tea?
I do on occasion. We mix it up. I'm a big fan of the espressos as well, so we do a little bit of everything here, Ben.
Yeah. That's the hardcore stuff, that, isn't it? Just straight espresso, no messing around. Take that and then get on with your day.
Exactly. Just nice and black.
Yeah.
Really manage the calorie intake.
Always important, that, Chris. I know you're always ensuring you're in peak condition.
Yeah, I just came from the Pembroke Financial Montreal Open yesterday, and I was actually sharing the room with the USA Spencer Lovejoy, and he came equipped with his own handheld espresso maker.
Oh wow, yeah, I like that.
So, yeah, that's taking things to the next level.
Did he share?
No, he didn't share, but to be fair, I didn't actually push the situation. He did offer, but it seemed like he had a system there, and I didn't want to disrupt the system with the quantity of beans he brought and all that kind of stuff.
Sure, it's very fair from you, and it sounds like Spencer was just being kind by offering you, but probably didn't actually want you to say yes. So I think it's worked out best for everyone.
But no, it was impressive, though. It was a very professional operation. He'd be drying out the various parts of the espresso machine in the bathroom every evening to make sure it was fresh for the next day. Wow.
Wouldn't mind finding out a bit more about that. We spoke about tea, but I'm a big coffee fan, coffee lover. So yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Well, and I think that's something that both these players probably have gotten into themselves, the coffee scene, both of them being based in Bristol for long stretches of their career.
Absolutely. I know for a fact Marwan loves his coffee, but yeah, I'm sure I'd be surprised if Youssef Soliman didn't as well. As you said, living in Bristol, it's a great coffee scene. One of the best around the UK, I think, actually. So
yeah, no, I've heard that. It's famous for some very alternative boutique cafes, and it certainly promoted some good exchange of knowledge on the squash scene, because we've seen some really fantastic squash players come out of Bristol in the last 10 years or so.
It's the secret. Must be the secret. Yeah, and just with this game's unfolding, Chris, I think we've kind of thought this might happen. It started at quite a nice pace, but Marwan's also, I don't think he's going to be too interested in getting drawn into too many long rallies, and so Youssef Soliman has to be careful here and not kind of present Marwan with some easy opportunities to hit winners, because he'll definitely be taking them. So he wants to extend those rallies, and Marwan probably wants to do the opposite. So there's an interesting balance just unfolding here.
No, absolutely. I do totally agree with you that Marwan Elshorbagy needs to be a little bit careful not to get into just sort of a hacking competition with Youssef Soliman, especially with the amount of work he will potentially have in his legs from yesterday. The other thing to note is it is a bit of a quick turnaround, considering they played yesterday in the evening and we're kicking off here at, well, the match was scheduled for 1:45 p.m. local time, and they got going a bit closer to 2:30, but that's still a pretty tight turnaround for these guys.
Yeah, it doesn't, it just shows what these guys, put their bodies through and have to try and recover in the best way possible. And I think that we did mention in the last semi-final, but some of the facilities that they have at the Rivers Club, and I'm sure Marwan in particular would have been making the most of the jacuzzis in the changing room, just trying to give his legs a bit of a rest and time to recover last night. But as you said, it's not ideal, but that's what we have to do as squash players, and these are some of the best at doing that.
Must say, he is looking full of energy, Youssef Soliman. He's just leaping into the front corners, really trying to force the pace here.
6-4.
Yeah, I find it the mental battle, the mental warfare, like in a situation like this deep in the tournament, it just gets so interesting. There's so many things going on in these guys' heads between, Youssef Soliman, for example, wanting to extend the rallies because Marwan might be a little bit tired, but he's not going to want to be playing negative. He still needs to be positive and And Marwan, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure won't be wanting to have a match like he did last night, but also he can't go too deep and too early, because you're not going to beat a player of Youssef Soliman's level by doing that. So it's just that kind of that battle in the mind about what they're actually going to do and show on court,
No, absolutely. The dynamic tends to get very interesting. And I think even earlier in the tournaments now, especially these bronze and silver events, can be a little bit interesting in the second round, because half the draw has to play the first round and they have that extra match under their belt on the court. And sometimes you can almost find the lower seeded player has that slight advantage for having that. If they get through that first round somewhat comfortably, they almost have a slight advantage the next day because they're a bit more acclimatized to the court conditions.
Yes, ma'am. You have to hold on. Because the wall was not tight. But Mr. Soliman, I need you to let him clear. Don't hold him there. Seven, 4.
Yeah, I think this is a good decision from the referee. There wasn't really a tremendous area for Youssef Soliman to clear into, and he absolutely pile drive that ball into the back corner.
8-4.
He's given himself a good lead here, Youssef Soliman, and put a nice amount of work into Marwan as well. I think we're going to start to see Marwan's going to be the one, I think, to try and mix it up on court, trying to take his time in between rallies just to try and get his breath back and break the rhythm of Youssef Soliman up. So interesting part of this first game now.
Well, maybe a slightly fortuitous bounce there for Soliman in the back corner, and it just allows him to maintain the ascendancy over Marwan Elshorbagy. Well, it's a quick error there from Elshorbagy, and Soliman now with 5 game balls. And Elshorbagy, no interest there, and gives the first game to Youssef Soliman. Well, it was a good...
Went quickly there towards the end of that game, didn't it?
No, it sure did. It was a good performance there from Youssef Soliman because he was proactive in his hitting. 12 minutes, and the Egyptian on top, 1 game to love. Youssef Soliman just not really giving Marwan Elshorbagy a sniff there, just not giving him anything loose that he could attack easily. So he really set his stall out, making it known that it was going to be a hard first game.
Yeah, I think, as we've just seen there, 12 minutes for a first game isn't very long, especially on traditional court, and I think we saw to the end of that game, Marwan wasn't too interested in mixing and trying to really put in a massive effort there to try and come back in that first game. So it's going to be interesting to see the response from Marwan, and whether, I think we're going to find out quite quickly whether he's prepared to get stuck in here tonight and physically put it on the line and see what he has left to try and match Youssef Soliman out here in tonight's semi-final. Sometimes you find that we keep speaking about, because everyone knows that he had such a tough battle last night. It's one thing saying he might struggle physically tonight, but sometimes you just need that game just to let your body loosen off and warm up and get into it, no matter how hard of a warm-up you've had, to just really feel those movements again. And hopefully now for Marwan's sake, we can get into this and really start to compete.
Well, the start of this second game is super important for Marwan Elshorbagy. He was pretty much blown off the court in the first game, so he needs to find a way to slow things down and just limit the options that Youssef Soliman has.
2-0. Without 1-2.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's a good rally there. I feel like didn't quite find his target there, Marwan, and the ball just popped out from the side wall and, you know, didn't allow Youssef Soliman to play his shot, and therefore the referee has given a stroke decision there in Solomon's favour.
We're having too much conversation here.
Well, and I think the conversation for Marwan Elshorbagy tactically isn't necessarily a bad idea, because it just gives him a little bit of time to just get the breathing under control and potentially summon up a bit of energy for a more physical rally.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when we talk about Marwan Elshorbagy, all of his obvious technical qualities, he's one of the cleverest players, I think, on tour, and you know that sometimes does mean little bits in between rallies that you can do maybe to upset your opponent, or as you just said there, talking to the ref to give him a little bit of time to get his breath back and just force an error there. It's yeah, he's a clever player.
Yeah, this is a good rally from Soliman. He's making the court very big, making Marwan Elshorbagy having to do a lot of movement. And you can just see as the rally goes on, the movement of Elshorbagy just getting slightly heavy.
Yeah, I completely agree there. That it started with that movement in the front left, didn't it? And it just such a fine margin at this level because he got to the ball, but he was just a tiny bit late and off balance on the ball, which meant that his counter drop wasn't to the quality that he would usually expect from himself, and then it just means that Soliman can get onto it quickly and put him under even more pressure. So it kind of makes things worse, doesn't it? Almost getting to the ball, but if his movement's a little bit laboured, then he's going to put himself under more pressure.
He did okay there. Just don't be looking for him. Don't be looking for any movement. Let me handle that.
Just feel like the last thing Soliman needs to do here is get involved with the ref and, you know, things that he's perceiving that Marwan's doing with regards to his movement, because if he focuses on his game plan, I think that, you know, that needs to be his focus here. I know they've had a lot of battles recently and Soliman's not come out on the right side of it. Maybe that's just in his mind, but you know, he needs to focus on what he's doing out there tonight, I think.
I need you to clear your shot, Mr. Soliman. Set come the warning for necessary physical contact. No. You're going to play a left, and you receive a conduct warning for necessary physical contact.
Interesting there, Chris. Just don't know what you thought about that, but quite an early statement there from the referee. I know we was talking about it in the last match, but you know, fair play to him. If he thinks that Solomon's taken too much space there, he doesn't want to see that descend into something a lot more scrappy as the game goes on and on. So he's, you know, hopefully nipped it in the bud there, and there won't be any more of those, or he'll get punished.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. He's certainly taken quite a big stance there. And that's an interesting one. The problem is there, the referee's taken a big stance, and it has to work both ways, because for me there, Marwan Elshorbagy stood on that ball to some degree.
Without 4-5.
Yeah, I just feel like I completely agree with you. I just think that Soliman needs to do everything he can here. He's such a good mover that he needs to do everything he can to play every ball he can, keep the rallies going, to keep it clean, and make it physical, because the more the ref gets involved, the more there is a bit of contact and stoppages. I think, you know, that's only going to suit Marwan, and history tells us that it will only suit Marwan.
No, I totally agree with you. It's in Soliman's interest here to keep this flowing and to actually do a little bit of extra work to not allow Marwan to create contact around the middle and to create let situations. Soliman needs to take that initiative to make these rallies hard and free flowing.
Definitely, I think he's such a great mover as well, Youssef Soliman, that, you know, he needs to use that to his advantage. I think he always needs to try and use that to his advantage against Marwan, who, you know, maybe is technically slightly better in terms of, as I said, what history shows, but especially tonight after such a grueling match for Marwan, he needs to make this hard. And good couple of rallies there by just extending the rallies, even if he's not winning every rally, because he's not going to against someone of the quality that Marwan obviously possesses, but just make the rallies hard.
No, absolutely. And I think this middle stage in a lot of ways could be the deciding point of the entire match, because if Soliman finds a way to get a 2-love lead here, it really sets his stall out.
It's a good example there, Chris. Sorry to just butt in there, but I just feel like it's easy to say, obviously, just watching and commentating here, but I feel like he can go around and play that, and it's going to be in his benefit to play it. He's obviously not thinking, and he wants that, he wants to let, because maybe Marwan's just taken a tiny bit of extra space, but he's not done much wrong there. And as we keep saying, try and play that shot.
And 7-6.
Yeah, it's interesting with so much being talked about the line to the ball. It sort of cuts both ways, and in some ways it encourages players to try and go through and play the ball, but then you also get the other extreme where players are aware that they're supposed to have that direct line and direct access to the ball, so they go out of their way to prove that they haven't gotten that direct access, and it can actually cause a little bit more complication than necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, as I said, I'm by no means saying, I know exactly how it is. Obviously, us both playing on tour for a lot of years. It's not easy sometimes, but just watching it, I feel like Marwan wants those stoppages. So Youssef Soliman's doing everything he can to play the ball. Not only is it making it harder for Marwan, I think just it's mentally showing Marwan that, I want to play through these stoppages because I feel like I'm physically going to beat you here, and it just builds to that pressure that he can put onto Marwan. But he's done well here, Marwan, and he's at 7-8 in the second game, and it's a dangerous position for Youssef Soliman.
No, I totally agree with you, Ben, that it's extremely in Youssef Soliman's interest to find ways to not allow Marwan to chop up the movement and chop up the timing of things here.
Good work in the front left here from these two, very tight. Ooh.
Why do you open the door? Mrs. Soliman. Just hold on. You can't open the door. Okay? Just close the door. You can't do that. If you do that against the destroy immediately. Alright? Just don't do it. Elshorbagy for the
referee.
8-all.
The referee in quite a stern way there, just making sure that Youssef Soliman does not open the door again. So yeah, 8-all. 8-all in this second game, and really, as you said earlier, Chris, I still think this is going to stay for the rest of this second game. Marwan can't afford to go 2-love down here.
There's room to play. There was nothing there with the movement. Okay, you stop it again. Elshorbagy with the left, from the left, 8-all. This left, 8-all.
Yeah, in some ways, Ben, this has gotten a little bit overcomplicated, I think. Some of these, I think, were probably just sort of simple lets. And it's gotten into that zone where you feel like both players are trying to work the decisions to their advantage.
Stroke to Soliman. You stood there way too
Yeah.
long.
Just hearing what the referee said there, but I completely agree with you. But ultimately, I think this is only going to suit Marwan. So if Soliman can try and clean this up and keep the rallies going and keep some fluidity in these rallies, it's going to benefit him.
No, absolutely, and that was an important point for Soliman, because I think he was starting to feel a little bit hard done by the decisions, and that just basically allowed him to get his nose back in front of Elshorbagy. With all the stoppages, Marwan Elshorbagy is looking revitalized. You can just see his positioning on the tee just more menacing, pushing up the court, trying to take the ball earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. He knows as well as what we said, obviously, that he needs to win this second game. Such a balance, isn't it, for Youssef Soliman here, that he wants to stretch it out and make the rallies long, but he still needs to be positive with his squash and play good squash, not just sort of hitting around the middle and allowing Marwan to volley and move in small areas, because he can do that all day and all night. So he does need to stretch him out as well.
No, absolutely. He certainly seemed to be getting bit of benefit from moving Marwan into the front corners at the right times earlier in the game. Well, he's had an absolute shocker there, Youssef Soliman. He's gone for it and missed the nick, and Marwan Elshorbagy is taking full advantage, getting the stroke. So Marwan now with a game ball. It's a better rally from Soliman, but he's just not quite getting the ball to die in the back corners.
Yeah, that's a fantastic kind of drop shot there. He got onto that nice and quick, didn't he? Played a good one before that Marwan was able to get in, but that second one, it's such a hard movement, bringing in a player in and out of that front corner quickly.
There's another towel there. Right here. Yeah.
Well, and for me, I think Youssef Soliman needs to find a way to get this moving along. This is, to some degree, clever from Marwan Elshorbagy, switching the towels.
And out 10-0.
Into a tie break now in this second game, and first player to win by 2 points. It's suddenly feels like a super important game, Chris, for both of them. I know we spoke about that, more so for Marwan, but at the same time, you can see for Youssef Soliman, if he loses this second game and his head drops and he thinks, this scenario has happened before against Marwan, and Marwan then gets his tail up, it could really be a pivotal game, the second game, whatever happens.
No, absolutely. There's a lot hanging in the balance on these next 2 points. And there it is, Youssef Soliman squeezing Marwan Elshorbagy. He's had a lot of success in that front backhand corner this game. So now Youssef Soliman with a game ball of his own.
That was great, that as well. He just hit a lot of cross courts from that front left and just rolled the racket head over there, just showed the cross court but hit it straight, and Marwan was off into that back right hand corner. All loose there by Marwan.
He cleared back to the team. The ball was to the back.
Not sure what Youssef Soliman was pointing to there. I think he was hoping for a review screen to pop up.
It takes like 30 seconds. I won't watch it. So head out, 11 all.
Do you know what he's pointing at there, Chris?
I think they might have a video with the SquashTV feed there, and he's just asking the ref to get the remote control out and rewind it and rewatch it. And that was, to some degree, a little bit fortunate. I've seen those given as lets before. Just trying to encourage the players to play those. But Youssef Soliman now with another game ball.
Yeah, you can feel the edginess on there, can't you? They're both fully aware of how important this is. Oh, I mean,
moving back to the tee. Well, you gotta listen to me. Yes, you have to. Because if you're moving back to the tee, it's one, yes, but I'm being direct.
Not quite sure I understand that decision, Chris, but maybe.
Well, I think the ref just saying that essentially that Marwan Elshorbagy stood on that ball too long. That even though there was pretty good quality in the length, he didn't give Youssef Soliman an opportunity to potentially go through and retrieve it.
He found a winner there. Yeah, I don't think it wasn't the cleanest winner there from Marwan, but nevertheless, he's found a winning shot, and it's 12-all in the second game. It really is just getting edgier and edgier as it gets.
I told you, Mr. Soliman, that I need you to let him clear. Okay? Just don't do that again.
So just trying to work out what's happened there, Chris, because.
Well, I think as Marwan was going through to play the ball, there was a bit of contact with Soliman's arm. Soliman pushed off him, getting through. It's one of those where the line through to the ball isn't that clean, and they're wanting the players to play it, but then at the same time, they're wanting no interference either.
It just felt like the referee stopped that, and it was the referee had decided to stop and play a let. But yeah, I'm sure I missed something there. Hopefully, we can clean this up a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think it was just clever for Marwan putting his hand up and calling attention to it. But that is a big squeeze from Marwan Elshorbagy.
Fantastic line on the
Squeezing Soliman along that backhand side wall. So now another game ball from Marwan Elshorbagy.
Might have to make another tee after this game, Chris, if it.
No, I think you definitely need another tee. That was an absolutely massive second game. Lots of momentum swings, and Marwan Elshorbagy extremely clever coming through on the big points there. Well, 34 minutes of play, and we're deadlocked at one game apiece.
Yeah, I think I knew that game was long. Not far off double that first game, and it was exactly what Marwan needed, I think. Without being, from a spectator point of view, I think we could do with it just being a bit cleaner and a little bit better movement on and off the ball from both players. But Marwan he got into the game. There was a few stoppages, which just allowed him to get his composure and gain his breath, get his legs back a bit. But I think that's a great game from Marwan. He showed his experience, he showed his quality in those important points at the end there. I felt like Youssef Soliman got a little bit more edgy, and we're one game apiece here, and poised nicely to see where this game's going to take us next.
60 seconds.
Yeah, I think that was a very good game from Marwan Elshorbagy. Just slowing things down, speeding things up, really disrupting the rhythm of Youssef Soliman. And you got to feel like the Englishman has started to really get his teeth around this semi-final match.
Time, just to both players. I want you to make effort to clear your shots and make effort to get to the ball in play. Right? Otherwise, I have to use the first point to clear the match up. One game all, no ball.
Referee just making it clear there to both players that wants to make sure they're both moving in the correct way and making space for the opponent to play. Otherwise, we'll use code of conduct. So hopefully, just encourages a smoother game here, just allowing both of these players to show the level of players that they are. I was just thinking in that break there, Chris, which I find really interested to hear your viewpoint as well. But we spoke about Youssef Soliman being in, in his best interest to like keep the rallies going, not just to test Marwan physically, but almost feel like getting involved in all those altercations and decisions almost gives Marwan that little bit of a push that he might need if his body's a little bit sore from last night. Almost gets him up for it a little bit more. Whereas in that first game, we saw his head drop a little bit. Maybe we started to think, I'm not going to be able to compete tonight. But now he's got his teeth into it, and he's going to be a dangerous animal here.
No, 100%. As this has gone on and things have gotten more and more contentious, it's certainly favored Marwan Elshorbagy. It's allowed him to get some time to catch his breath, to be able to up the intensity, but it's also disrupted the rhythm of Youssef Soliman.
And that 2-1.
Just really important here, I think, for Soliman more than Marwan, actually, just to try and get his teeth into this game, try and put those scrappy moments behind him a little bit and try and settle again, because it looked very settled towards the end of that second game for me.
And then 2-3.
No, I think what Marwan Elshorbagy has done really well here is just break the rhythms up and just not allowed Youssef Soliman to get into the rhythm of controlling the ball around the court and just flowing around.
Handed stroke to Soliman. And your movement back to the tee was unnecessary, Mr. Elshorbagy.
Well, it's all going off here, Ben. Marwan Elshorbagy getting a conduct stroke for the movement.
And that was 4-2.
Yeah, just being penalised for his movement there, and the ref obviously deemed that not be the correct movement. Not sure Marwan agrees with that, but yeah, we move on. They've both been given conduct now for their movement. Hopefully that just encourages them both to give their player access to every shot where possible.
And out 3-4. Set 3-4. you play the ball in the middle.
Well, we'll listen in here.
No, I don't see any unnecessary movement.
It's all going off here, Ben. Youssef Soliman's racket just goes flying out of his hand, saying that Marwan Elshorbagy's cleared back into him. It's all a bit dramatic.
Very dramatic there, I think. Oh.
Please, just stop doing what you're doing right now, both of you. Just stop.
I kind of echo what the referee's saying there. I think both players can almost just start again and try and clean it up. They're both good movers and incredible players. I think they're both just trying to create decisions, let's say, as opposed to playing the game the way they know they should do.
5-4.
I mean, that being said, Chris, we all want it a little bit cleaner and free flowing. But again, I go back to what I said at the beginning. This is only going to suit one player. So as much as Marwan's acting like he's frustrated about this, I don't believe he is too frustrated about it and will back himself to come out of this sort of situation on top. It's not going to suit Youssef Soliman. He needs to get this game moving, a bit more consistent, some harder rallies, some longer rallies, and get Marwan really stretched if he wants any joy out of this match today.
No, I totally agree, Ben. The tactic from Marwan Elshorbagy here has been pretty solid, and he's managed to keep his head. He hasn't particularly gotten too involved with the referee, but he's made it sufficiently uncomfortable that Soliman's felt the need to get involved. So it's just from a tactical perception, pretty brilliant.
7-5. Without 6-7.
Yeah, Marwan Elshorbagy just not finding the cleanness of the hitting, spraying the ball back at himself. So a little bit of a dangerous period. He's let Soliman back into this game.
Yeah, that's a good shot there. I think that's where we can kind of take out any of the movement issues. Is the quality's that good, then the player has to go and try and play that, which Soliman did there. Kind of missed his target on the backhand side, but there we go. Just really stretching out the court there for Marwan, and as you see there, making it very difficult for him to complete. I think it goes back to what I was saying, Chris, but it just, as we just saw these last three, 4 rallies, they've been, they're all in Youssef Soliman's favour.
It's a conduct stroke or necessary physical contact.
Wow, I'll let you explain that, Chris.
To me, that's an absolute shocker, because they've given the conduct stroke to Soliman here.
Just move into the line. It doesn't matter if
I think they've given it against Soliman. So
against Soliman. To me, the referee's got this completely wrong, because Soliman has to spread out to play this ball because the ball's traveling away from him, and he's just hit the ball into open space. To me, honestly, Soliman has not done that much wrong there, particularly.
No, I completely agree with you. I think that's why I couldn't believe the call, which is why I was asking you to explain.
Yeah, no, and I think Marwan Elshorbagy's done a good job of selling this, running into Soliman's back and making it out like he could have gotten through and all that kind of stuff, when in reality he put himself out of position massively, and unfortunately the referee's just been sold on it.
Yep. Marwan has to go around and try and play that.
Yeah, and potentially that decision has quite big impact, because you go from Soliman being quite comfortably in the lead to all of a sudden this now looks pretty pretty complicated.
And of course, a rest there for Marwan. No, that's that's very, very harsh line for Youssef Soliman. I think we both agree on that, and he has to go again. Which, to be fair to him, he looks like he has just got on with it. So I think it's only going to be good for him. Much better this from Soliman though, I think. As we can see, just win or lose the rallies. I mean, that's fantastic for me. I think he's very much deserved that. But I think what we were saying, Chris, is just been less issues, and it's all been going his way when he's been able to just make it physical, not get too involved in the bittiness of the game and breaking up of the play. And he's hard to beat when he gets in that kind of rhythm. So that's what he needs to focus on for me.
That's another one I don't think Soliman's going to be too happy with while traveling through to the back, but Marwan Elshorbagy has not particularly given much of a line there. But I think what Soliman's done well here is he's gotten on with it. He's played very well here in the latter stages of this third game. Found a way to start putting sizable amounts of pressure on Marwan Elshorbagy.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Chris. I think he's played really well at the back end of this game, and probably deserves to take the game. Whether he will or not, we'll see. But he's reacted well, and he's getting on with the rallies and moving in his favour. Wasn't a great shot there, and it got duly punished from Marwan. You can't be leaving it loose in the front of the court, because Marwan's one of the best at punishing you from that position.
Well, it's clever play from Marwan. He's fighting for his life here, Marwan Elshorbagy.
You play the ball in the middle, you took space to play the ball. It's completely different. There's no need. 10-all.
Well, he's had an absolute shocker there, Youssef Soliman. It was a good shot from Marwan Elshorbagy, but he's made Soliman take the long way round there.
Yeah, I can't help but feel like Soliman's been hard done by in these last 4 or 5 rallies. His head could fully roll off if he doesn't win this third game.
No, absolutely, and this is the issue with the referee putting out such a strong message early on. If he's going to be giving conduct warnings out and things like that, that movement on that last shot from Marwan Elshorbagy probably warranted a warning. Yet you gave Soliman a no let, so that's sort of where the consistency starts to become an issue.
Yeah, and he's been up. Yeah, I think as you saw earlier in that rally, Marwan's done a very good job. I think he put his hand up again during the rally when I don't think Soliman had done much wrong, and the ref definitely seems to be seeing the side of Marwan Elshorbagy at the moment, and it's up to Soliman to change this and try and focus on the squash and get back to what he was doing so well.
No, absolutely. I mean, Marwan Elshorbagy now with the game ball, and it's somewhat surprising with the quality that Youssef Soliman was playing for much of the second part of this game. He was well in the driver's seat. He really had Marwan Elshorbagy on the ropes.
No lead. 12-10.
Well, I think Youssef Soliman potentially trying to sell that a little bit too hard. And Marwan Elshorbagy takes that third game. So Elshorbagy now out in front, 2-1. Well, we see Youssef Soliman beckoning at that replay board, and the entire crowd looking over at the replay board now. But 50 minutes of action, and the Englishman Marwan Elshorbagy out in front, 2-1 against Youssef Soliman, 5-11, 14-12, 12-10.
Yeah, some controversy at the end of that game, and I think that's going to be a tough one for Soliman to overcome. I'll be interested to see how he's able to recover from that and see whether he can really bounce back after a few tough decisions, in my opinion, towards the end of that game. But Marwan did really well to keep his composure and, now got a 2-1 lead. Interesting to see how the start of this fourth game pans out and whether Youssef Soliman can bounce back or whether Marwan's going to take the initiative and, take the front seat and run away with it here.
Yeah, I think for me, potentially, this is a tricky one for Youssef Soliman to come back from, just because he was playing so well there at the end of the third game, and he certainly will feel hard done by the referee, because he was making an effort to try and make things more flowingly, and then he seemed to be the one that got penalized.
Paying attention to all. Thank you. Elshorbagy needs 2 games to 1. Elshorbagy to serve.
Yeah, it's tough lines, but you could. Refs definitely don't think Youssef Soliman and the ref will be having a drink together later. But Youssef Soliman, if he wants to keep his campaign alive here in Pittsburgh, is going to need to respond quickly.
Yeah, he needs a good start here, Youssef Soliman. Needs to somehow get Marwan Elshorbagy on the back foot.
Yes, it's one of those, Chris, where, again, it's easy for me to say from here, but I really think for Soliman to have a chance of winning this match still, he almost, instead of trying to convince the ref, his viewpoints, he needs to almost try and forget the ref, try and play everything, make it hard, get into a rhythm how he did at times during that third game, where he's stretching Marwan and making it physically tough, and try and get a bit of momentum that way, because I just don't think he's going to win that other way.
No, absolutely. He needs to just get on with it, because right now he just feels like everything's going against him. I think the more he gets involved, the more it potentially penalizes him.
Mr. Soliman, I told you you can't do that. I told you to ask again. This is the last warning. This is the last one. 2-1.
Well, the referee really trying to cut down on any time that Youssef Soliman potentially can take between points, just warning him he can't use the towel unless he asks. I think this is going to get away from Youssef Soliman rather quickly.
You can do it with your shoe. With your shoe. No, we don't need a towel. Just quickly. All right. 3-1.
Just missing his target there, isn't he? Feel like maybe his head's almost elsewhere, and yeah, like we said, Chris, I don't think this isn't the start to the fourth game that Youssef Soliman would have wanted, and it's going to be interesting now to see how he can respond, because he needs to if he wants to stay in this.
No, not at all. This is certainly not what Youssef Soliman was imagining when he went off in between games. And Marwan Elshorbagy starting to make the court very big for Youssef Soliman. And just everything that's going on just seems to be irritating Youssef Soliman.
And
somewhat understandably so.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, you know, there's a few decisions that we agree with that, you know, Youssef Soliman's been hard done by, but I just can't help but think I've seen these two play before, and you know, whenever it gets a bit bitty and there are decisions, it's always favoured Marwan. So I'm being really harsh here because I do think that Soliman's been unlucky and probably deserved to be 2-1 up as opposed to 2-1 down. But with his experience and his level, I just think he has to focus on something different. And you know, as we've said earlier on in the match, like just trying to play the ref out of it, make it hard, make it physical, make it long, and you know, if there is a decision, just get on with it.
No, absolutely. He needs to find a way to just put all the extracurricular activities to one side. But he's just having a complete head off here. I mean, Marwan Elshorbagy absolutely misjudged that one. He had the whole court to hit into, and he rocketed it reactively into the tin, still with a 4-point cushion.
Yeah, I think, and again, Youssef Soliman will know this, but Marwan's an absolute master at this as well. You know, if a game gets a bit stop-start and some referee decisions, I'm not sure there's anyone better in the world at, you know, like moving that to, you know, to his advantage. He's very clever, as I said early on in the match, and he's great in these situations. He's showing it again here, so you know, fair play for him.
Well, Youssef Soliman just slightly misjudging the very casual backyard badminton volley drop.
Very casual. It looked how I feel at the minute, to be honest with you, with my team. I think that's how I'd play a shot at this very moment in time. But he's kind of in the midst of battle and yeah, needs to be a little bit more prepared for those situations.
4-7.
Well, that's better from Youssef Soliman. He's gotten Marwan Elshorbagy deeper in the back corner.
5-7.
Better rally this from Soliman. Can he finish it off?
Oh, and I think the referee's sitting on the fence there a little bit.
I was just about to say that it feels like a very in-between decision, as you've said, sitting on the fence decision, which is strange because when we talk about, you know, fighting for some kind of consistency, I feel like the ref set his stall out early in this match, and I thought, okay, you know, I'm fine with that. It's going to be quite strict. There's going to be strokes given if you are in the way, and he's climbed back on the fence.
Yeah, no, it was right on the fence there, just not really wanting to take a hard stance.
I mean,
oh, and it's all happening now. This is going to be interesting.
I mean, I think that's the decision Soliman probably wanted towards the end of the third game, but I do agree. I think Elshorbagy made a bit of an excessive movement there, so the ref has got that one right, so credit to him.
Well, Youssef Soliman somehow managed to battle his way back into this game, and he's just 1 point shy of Marwan Elshorbagy now.
Again, Chris, when you think about, you know, without anything in particular happening, like, how he got back into this game? Just probably relaxing a little bit because he was so far down, letting things flow a bit, picking balls up.
No, I didn't see anything there.
I'm going to stop talking because as soon as I say something about him finding a bit of rhythm again, that's completely gone, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think he's overcooked it a little bit here. Youssef Soliman, he needs to read the room a bit. I think in another scenario, this potentially could just be a simple let because he lost his racket. But today, this was never going to be a let with the way the ref is seeing this, and he just needs to read the room a bit and get on with it.
Stop. And there is unnecessary. Yes. You play the ball from the middle of the court and you clear straight back to the tee. In that case, if you're stroke to Soliman.
He's punishing Marwan again there for his movement around the middle of the court. So I think Marwan has to be careful here.
No, he needs to be massively careful. And the thing that's interesting here, Ben, is I've actually never seen before a referee stop rallies mid-rally, basically, to give a decision.
I completely agree.
It's something that's a little bit, I don't know if this is a new directive from the refereeing czar, Lee Drew, or if this is sort of something that's just unique to the Pittsburgh Open, but it's something that I haven't particularly witnessed before, where the actual flow of play is being influenced by the referee.
I agree. It'll be interesting to find out. But if I'm honest with you, I think in certain situations, especially if it's a stroke because of bad movement, I need to think about it more. But I don't mind it because, Youssef Soliman just tried hard to play through interference, yet he's been pushed off the line because of the bad movement. But the ref stopped it for a stroke. Mind it, and there's no reason for discussion there. I think it's Marwan trying to get his breath back. That was a situation, Chris, I don't know if you remember in the previous game where I think Marwan got a stroke for something similar. So that's gone in Youssef Soliman's favour, and we're at 8-all now, and it's very, very tightly poised in this fourth. I'm excited and nervous and intrigued at the same time.
Well, it's certainly gotten very spicy, Ben. I mean, this looked like Marwan Elshorbagy was going to run away with this fourth game at one stage. You had the feeling that Youssef Soliman felt a great injustice, and now he's all of a sudden back in the middle of it. Well, this is it's absolutely wild, Ben. I mean, Youssef Soliman now with 2 game balls to take this into a 5th game.
Yes, ma'am. Because first your ball was outside. Second, you could not clear, make yourself smaller.
Situation, doesn't it? I think he's obviously deemed that Marwan didn't do anything wrong, but climbed up on the fence again there, I think, Chris.
Yeah, well, I think Marwan's very lucky not to have gotten a stroke given against him because the quality shot was very average and there was really no line through for Soliman.
I'm surprised Marwan was arguing about that one, to be honest with you. Again there, Chris, like Soliman, I think, maybe Soliman had more of a reason to argue, but he's just got on with it.
No, I totally agree, Ben. When Soliman's getting on with it, it's worked out in his favor more.
Incredible movements there as well. I mean, yeah. Great rally this. That's fantastic. What a finish there by Soliman. That game, and I think fully deserved after we're going to find out in a minute what the score was, but a massive lead there by Marwan. So credit to you for Soliman coming back into that, and for me, playing the best squash and being in the best zone, mentally towards the end of that fourth game, that he has been all match. So taking that fourth game 11-8 in 14 minutes, and once again, just like the first semi-final, setting up a mouth-watering 5th game.
No, absolutely. We've had 65 minutes of play, and we're deadlocked here at 2 games apiece between Youssef Soliman and Marwan Elshorbagy. Really excited to see this next graphic, just the points streaks in the 4th game. As you said, Ben, there were moments where it looked like Marwan Elshorbagy was running away with the game, and then the momentum just completely reversed. So here we go.
Here we go, Chris. There we have
Marwan
it.
Elshorbagy 6-1 up. 6-1 and 7-3. Wow.
I mean, Chris, I go back to and give you credit for what you said. We were talking about in the first semi-final. If anyone here wasn't watching at the time, but talking about there being some big momentum swings on these courts, and you've seen that in the past. And you're absolutely right. Tonight, there's been some huge momentum swings. No more so than in that game. I mean, I'm not sure many people would have been backing Youssef Soliman when he was 6-1 down in that 4 games against someone like Marwan Elshorbagy. So credit to him, and yeah, sets up a mouth-watering 5th game here.
15 seconds.
Well, I think as that game went on, Youssef Soliman just found a better balance, not getting involved with the refereeing decisions and just playing around the interference. Really is on a razor's edge, this match.
What I will be interested to see here, Chris, as this game unfolds, is whether the referee keeps that same line, and also whether Youssef Soliman keeps that as well, because where he got rewarded for a couple of strokes against Marwan Elshorbagy was when he just tried to play through interference and, you know, tried to make as much effort as possible, as opposed to stopping and trying to show that stroke, letting the referee do his job.
No, he had the racket behind the ball. Hold on, stop. I haven't set the score. 1 love.
Referee just stopping them again. I think this referee is, in his mind anyway, in full control of this, isn't he?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It certainly added an extra level of drama to the entire proceedings here.
I agree. I don't know what's coming next. I don't think the players will either.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one as well, because I think Soliman potentially could have had a stroke there.
It's a stroke or a no let, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Feels
probably
like that decision, you know.
You know, and I think that's one of the things we're possibly seeing, because there's no video review here. I think some of these decisions would, at a World Series event where you had the review available, would start to work their way out, where here, because we're sort of going the old-fashioned way with just the central referee, it's almost becoming a little bit of a lottery.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris, but you know, we also have to appreciate, I'm not sure there's another event of this level with this level of players that doesn't have the review system on a full glass court these days, is there?
That's a good question. I think there's certainly bronzes.
Yeah.
There's certainly bronzes that are on traditional courts.
Yeah.
Silver, I don't think there are many. But you certainly are right about that these type of players are probably more often than not playing with reviews than without reviews. So
2-1.
well, to me that was a pretty high quality shot from Soliman.
Again, without the luxury of having a review, we can't be certain, but it looked like Soliman couldn't have done anything different there, unless he kind of vanished after hitting the shot. But referees deemed him to use a bad movement there, and he's given a stroke to Marwan Elshorbagy, and he now leads 2-1 in this fifth game. It seems like the momentum is with him.
It's a good squeeze there from Marwan Elshorbagy. He's looked good here at the start of this fifth game. Must say, on the opposite side of the draw, Karim Abdel Gawad will be very happy to see these two getting involved in this big of a semi-final.
Yeah, absolutely right, Gawad. I think, yeah, looking at he'll be tucking into his pizza right about now, keeping an eye on this and thinking, yeah, you carry on, boys, because I'm refueling here and I'll be ready for tomorrow.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there would be a stage in there where Gawad would almost be kicking himself for not taking advantage of the opportunities he had earlier in that match. But now with this match just going so far into a fifth and being so complicated emotionally, Gawad will be feeling much, much better about the situation. And the other aspect for Gawad that is potentially somewhat helpful is that he was the first match on, because the final tomorrow very early at noontime.
Yeah, you're right. It's quite it's a quick turnaround, isn't it? So it'll make a difference. That extra couple of hours, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference with the recovery, just the timing of the meals and stuff.
It's a shocker there for Soliman, Chris. Just as I was about to say, he's worked a good rally in there. He's hit a 10 out of nowhere, and it looks like he's gone. His head's gone, Chris.
Yeah, Soliman's just come off it physically, and Marwan's marching ahead. He's got the chest pumped out. Somehow got a third or a fourth win here, Marwan Elshorbagy.
Yeah, it's a shame to see it go this way, but whether it's physically, mentally, a bit of both. Marwan looks a lot better than Youssef Soliman right about now, and Soliman looks like he's giving up the ghost.
Yeah, no, Soliman's looks like it's going to be almost a formality here. And it's possibly a little bit fortuitous that let that ball traveling away from Soliman.
Surprised me a bit here, Chris. He looks physically a bit gone. Maybe the mental side of that has kind of like lent on that, but yeah, it surprised me a little bit here. But fair play for Marwan. He's done what he's needed to do here, and as we see it there, a big place in the final tomorrow.
Well, there it is, Marwan Elshorbagy with the massive comeback there, booking his spot in tomorrow's final. He overcame match balls in the quarterfinals, overcame a massive five-setter here in the semi, taking out Egyptian Youssef Soliman 3-2 in 74 minutes. 5-11, 14-12, 12-10, 8-11, 11-2.
I don't think he can hear us now. But
yeah, some semi-finals we had there, and I hope the guys can get a good bit of rest and recovery in tonight, and look ahead to a fantastic final tomorrow between Marwan Elshorbagy and Karim Abdel Gawad.
Well, here we see the points from the game, and it was just all Marwan Elshorbagy. 2 big runs of points was enough to see him through to the final.
I wish that were true for all of us.
I'm happy to be able to back up again after yesterday's battle against Sebastian. And
well, there we see our semifinals here today at the Rivers Club in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We saw Egyptian Karim Abdel Gawad take out compatriot Youssef Ibrahim in a massive 5 games, and we were just treated to another fantastic 5-game match with Englishman Marwan Elshorbagy taking down Youssef Soliman 3-2. Well, that's good evening from us here in Pittsburgh, and please join us tomorrow for the final of the Pittsburgh Open at 12 p.m. local time here in Pittsburgh. That's 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time in the UK for a fantastic final between Egypt's Karim Abdel Gawad and England's Marwan Elshorbagy. Good evening.
he did that last year as well, where he was just dominating the first game, so I knew.
Thanks, Chris. I will. Yeah, looking forward to the blockbuster final tomorrow, and
I was hoping he was going to
look
get
forward to being
some
back
points
here
in the
tomorrow.
second. Of course, I was lucky. He had a couple of game goals, and he had a couple of different goals in the third. But I don't know. I've been dealing with this situation in a calm way, which has been helping me. I don't want to get kind of too tense or just more thinking about hitting the ball and where to hit it, and yeah, that's what I've been trying to do.
And you're in the finals again, 2 years in a row here, 2 different opponents though. Last year you were playing against Diego Elias from Peru, and now Karim Abdel Gawad. Tell me what you're thinking about tomorrow.
Karim, of course, his first tournament after the injury, so I'm happy to see him back playing. And I didn't get to watch his match with Youssef. I'm sure they played a great attacking squash. Both of them are the best at it. So I'm just going to focus on my recovery, to be honest. And tomorrow for the club final, not the best time, but it is what it is. I'll warm up early. I'll wake up early.
We'll wake up early. We'll go get to take care of your body. Congratulations, 2 5-game wins in a row. Our number 2 seed, runner-up last year, Marwan Elshorbagy. As Marwan said, it is noon tomorrow, so we hope that you all will be here. 1 match for the championship between our number 1 and number 2 seeds. Can't wait. See you here tomorrow. Get home safe, everybody.